Okay, so here's the thing I'm really excited about. Okay, so the title sequence. Every season, there's a new title sequence. This season, we we see glass shatter, iced. We see iced. I don't know why I just did that. We see iced glass shatter, fly at us, and then there's this like one piece that kind of goes, and we see part of like supernatural through it, and then it, you know, passes the camera or whatever, and then we see full supernatural, zoom in. So that's the title sequence. And the first thing I thought of was, I think, yeah, the scene is in Swan Song last season when Sam goes to see Lucifer and he's kind of like doodling ice. He went on the glass and then kind of doodled on it or whatever he did. I can't remember what he did. He did something like that, and he made the comment that most people think that hell is hot and that I like unbearable heat, blah blah blah. But he's like, it's actually the opposite. So he likes it cold. That was the first thing I thought of. Was that scene just flashed in my head. And then watching the episode again, I was able to really pay attention to those more subtle details. And there are so many metaphors and visuals that has to do with like mirrors and reflections and that whole idea throughout the entire episode. And then when you really, really start thinking about it, you realize that whole that metaphor actually goes all the way back to season 4 when they brought in the story of Lucifer and the angels and the Judeo-Christian mythology. It goes all the way, stretches all the way back to there. And maybe it's because I only started watching this show, but for me, it made this the idea of these symbols and metaphors made this story arc make so much more sense, and it made it seem like everything has to do with this one particular thing, this one particular entity, but not person, like entity as an idea in the whole plot line. And that probably did not make sense to most people. But, this is just kind of like random thoughts that I've kind of tried to throw together in the last hour. So that could be why. I have so much written down on this, I have to look at my notes. Okay. So what does that mean? And to me, I just brainstormed so many things, and they all make sense. So the first thing that I really started kind of putting together in my head is that the reason for these metaphors about mirrors is you can't trust what you see. You can, and that really makes sense for the show. I mean, think about it. You can't trust what you see. For whatever reason or another, you have to second guess what your own eyes are seeing. You have to look at it from a different perspective, from a different point of view. And even the whole idea of possession kind of goes with the metaphor. So someone gets possessed, whether it's by an angel or by a demon, and the person that you're actually seeing, or the vessel, is not in fact the person that is within. Something is possessing that person. So when that person, or when you look at that person, say imagine you're possessed and you look in a mirror. What you're seeing is really not what you are. What is being seen is in fact just the vessel, whereas what is inside you can't see in that reflection, or at least human eyes can't. Perhaps demons and angels are able to sense themselves within other people, and I really think they are. But humans, when we're watching this, the audience is watching it with human eyes, and I really think that's something that writers think of when they're visually trying to tell this story. So we're humans watching this show, and we, along with Sam and Dean, who the story is being told through, can't trust what we see with our eyes. So we really have to think beyond that and look beyond that, and that's the whole idea of this metaphor, and that's why I'm like so excited right now. So and another example, it kind of has to do with possession again, is when we see our first angel in season 4, Castiel is introduced and he walks through the doors and yeah. And then, Dean's like, who are you? And Cass is like, I'm an angel of the Lord. And Dean's like, I don't believe you. Angels don't exist, blah, 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 blah. And then he does that, like, lightning thing, and then we see his wings go. But they're not actual wings. We just see, like, the shadow of his wings. I thought that was so cool. And it goes with this whole idea that we can't trust what we're seeing with our own eyes. That there is something else beyond what we see. Something else entirely going on. And that, ties in that whole idea. And, okay, here I got a lot more to talk about. Let's talk about the shattering glass for a second. It's not just the idea of a reflection and mirrors. This whole idea of the glass actually shattering this reflection. I think okay. Shattering. It has to do with this whole thing that we've heard multiple times over the episode. We're going to probably hear it multiple times through the season, a million times through the season, is you can't outrun your past. So, think about it like this. This is how I think about it. The shattering glass represents their lives that they used to know. Not necessarily this whole comfortable life that Dean's been able to have in the last year, but in fact, his hunting life, that everything he thought he knew is gonna change, and that shattering glass, that's what it represented. It represented their Sam and Dean's past lives together, and they've been living this life apart for a year now, and who knows everything that's happened, and if it is in fact Sam at all. Which, totally different tangent and theory that I've already went over. But that's really what the shattering glass, I think, is represented by. That it represents, essentially, what we thought we knew. And what we thought we knew doesn't matter anymore. There's so much new going on that whatever this plan is that Lucifer has, if it is Lucifer, it doesn't matter anymore. None of it matters. Everything that is brought into this season is not going to pertain to any of the laws, any of the rules that have happened before. And that's huge, if that is in fact what's going to happen. Like I said, this is only a theory, but if that is in fact what's going to happen, that's huge. Huge. Along with this whole mirror metaphor, we can even go as far to use it to describe the ideas of family and brotherhood that we see in the show. Let's take, for example, Sam and Dean. But let's also look at Michael and Lucifer. Think back for a minute to last season. The episode, I can't even think of what it was called, but the episode where Gabriel puts Sam and Dean in all those TV shows, and they find out, that is actually the episode we find out he is Gabriel, the conversation that they have at the end of the episode about Gabriel and his family and why he wants Sam and Dean to play their parts in the apocalypse. There's something that he said, as it is in heaven, so it is on earth. You know what that means is heaven and earth are mirror images of each other. Whatever goes on in heaven has to go on earth. Mere reflective images of each other. That is why Sam and Dean are the vessels, because their lives have become a mere image of the betrayal and the lives of Michael and Lucifer. It all makes sense. That also kind of goes back to what I was saying before. Sam and Samuel. Sam was pulled out of hell. Samuel was pulled down from heaven. And it's not a coincidence that they're both named Sam. I mean, come on, let's be honest. It's not a coincidence. This is going to matter in one way or another, and it's all going to have to do with this whole idea of mirrors and reflective images. It's all going to come down to that this season. Now, going back to heaven and earth. If heaven and earth are a reflective image or a mirror image of each other, where does hell fit in? We know it's separate from heaven and hell. So where does it fit in? If heaven and earth have to live by these apparent rules that we have been seeing go on, and we don't know exactly where hell fits into the mix, is hell or creatures of hell allowed to break those rules? I don't know. It was just kind of a random thought. Whether that makes sense or not, I'm not sure. Whether it's going to be important or not, I'm not sure. All I know is that just doesn't seem, for some reason, hell doesn't seem to fit into the mix somewhere. But we know it's important. So I don't know where it's going to be. Okay. So, what does this all mean? I don't know. I don't know. And, okay, seriously. What can you know with one episode? We can't know anything with one episode. That's what a whole season, 22 episodes is for. So, 22, I'm sorry, not 22, 21 episodes to go. This will all make sense eventually, probably by next May, June, whenever the season is over. So there it is. I'll lay it out for you. What I think, what I thought, what might happen, what may not happen. I don't know. But there it is. Episode 1 wrapped. Episode 2, Friday. Tune in. And tune in to my next vlog for my next ramblings. Peace.